This is Shed, it lives by a hedge in my tiny little yard. Swear you'll hear us harping on, so come join us for a chat in my shed.
Welcome to Shed TV. I'm Pastor Mike Taylor from Faith Church in Roddestone, and I've got my good mate, Pastor Paul Van Essen, with me from...
wherever I'm from.
Wherever you're from. I've forgotten the name of your church.
It's called Greater Life Church.
Greater Life Church, that's it. So, Shed TV, this is something that I did in lockdown, and it's great to be doing it again, and just having my friends just come and have a chat about our faith, about what we believe God's saying to us as a church, where we think the church is going in Wales and the UK. So, Paul, do you just want to introduce yourself, seeing as I've so poorly done it?
Yeah. Oh, well, I've been here. My accent, you can probably tell, anyway, it's Australian, but I've been here for 24 years. And I worked as a leader and a pastor in a very big church in Sydney for a number of years and then came here. And I'm really, the spiritual shape of the nation, of the United Kingdom, England, Wales, and a lot of Western Europe as well, is really changed since I've been here. So I'm pastoring over there, leading a church in Staines called Greater Life Church. Yeah. And but love coming to Wales.
So does Ali G come to your church?
No, he doesn't. No. He tried to, but I wouldn't let him.
Okay.
No, we only have good-looking people.
Oh, good-looking. We should have come in shell suits, shouldn't we? Really? So you've been in ministry 25 years.
30?
30 years?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've seen a lot of changes.
Absolutely, yeah.
So from the kind of big mega church kind of thing through to what you're doing now, because your first church, your first network you involved, that was quite a large network of churches, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So I was just, we just had really a move of God, what you'd call a move of God.
Yeah.
Back in the early 80s in Sydney. So our church was led by a young man, early 30s, and within 5-7 years, we had 5,000 odd people.
Wow.
I became a pastor there and led the Bible college. And so that was a wonderful experience, but a bit atypical, a unique experience. That isn't what happens for most people.
Yeah.
And then when we came here, we kind of started a church with the same group of people, and we had a fair bit of momentum and some very exciting things, and then life unraveled as it does.
Yeah.
And now we're in a situation where most of the Western world is, where we have a church of less than 100 people, which is about 80% of the world goes to a church of less than that, or 80% of the churches are. And so it's been a great experience, and you learn a lot as you go along.
Yeah, because my parents got into church in that 80s kind of period. Mm-hmm. So my memories of early church are of big church gatherings in tents and just kind of that charismatic move, and yes, and church has gone on a journey, hasn't it? We've gone from that, we went through, for a season of being quite well produced, quite professional. Yeah. Which was good, but I think, be good to talk about COVID, I think almost, as they call it the Great Reset. I don't know. I don't know. That's a great term. I don't know what you think. But I think the whole dynamic of church has changed.
Yeah, I think it has, and I think it needed to.
Yeah.
I think God is always trying to bring the church into a place that glorifies him and it effectively reaches the world and sees those people built. And like anything, when there's a move of the Spirit. So in the early 80s, we had what we probably call the mega church kind of emphasis. And that did some certain great things, but you can't have one model, that works all the time. And COVID did. It did reset the church, and we're not through it yet in terms of the fallout of that. But I think if we adapt well, if we hear what the Spirit of God is saying and adapt well, we can see some really positive changes. Yeah.
So, I know we've talked lots, but how would, in your 30 years of ministry, how would you evaluate health of church? So I know there's a big move about numbers.
Sure.
But from your wisdom and your experience, what would you say would be a healthy church?
I think that church health is more important than church numbers. That's for sure. I think that the whole numbers thing, so to speak, and that sounds a little bit downgrading, which I don't really want to be, but I think the emphasis on how many people are in the building, how many people got saved, how much money came in, all that stuff, which is a big part of that world, you know,
Yeah.
which I've lived in for plenty of time. Like anything that can have an excess that's
Yeah.
unhealthy.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the fallout of that is that the name of the church starts to become bigger than the name of Jesus. I'm always a bit concerned about that. And I think sometimes people start to feel like a number instead of authentically committed to. So when I think about what you're doing, one of the great things that's happening in Newport for you guys is the sense of community that's in there and the connection you have with so many different aspects.
Yeah.
And I think that's crucial right now.
Well, I read a book just before. Well, I don't read books because I'm not a great reader, but I listened to a book called "Not in God's Name" by the Rabbi of London, and he talks about the dynamic of us as humans, and research, sociology research has proven that if you get over like 250 people, there has to be some control of it, you know. And they go back through history and study it. And I look at the church, and I look. You know, having been in big churches and small churches, there's a shift in dynamic once you get over a certain number.
Sure.
And not that one's right and one's wrong. But I do think, because what's been on my heart for Wales is that we need to restore the church back to its rightful place in community. Like, it needs to be at the heart, it needs to be at the centre, and it needs to be a place of belonging. And I don't know whether we can do that if we become too big.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, no, I think that's true. And I think the reality is that there are going to be some big churches. So even if you read the New Testament, you know, there's a handful of churches. They were larger. Antioch, where a lot of stuff kicked off.
Yeah.
And Barnabas came over to kind of look after that, and then Paul came in there. That was a large and significant group. But historically, all the way through, most of these things have been small. Most of Christian people meet in a community, and we need that. So I think we need a handful of when I say handful, I mean how many. Yeah. But you need some things. There are some things that big churches can do that other churches will struggle to do.
Yeah.
But I think that what's happened, certainly in my experience, is that it became so important, the numbers, that everybody was striving to reach more people, not because they loved people so much, but just it's better to have 200 than it is 150. And by this time next year, our goal is we're going to have 500, and all those kinds of things. And the downside of that is that's just not what everybody is made for. It's just, in fact, most leaders and ministers are not called or created or shaped to be a pastor of a massive church. So I remember we talked about, when we first got here, we brought some. I used to run the Bible college there in Australia, and it was pretty significant, one of the more influential Bible colleges because it was attached to this large church in Sydney. And so I had a bunch of students that came with me, and they stayed anything from a year to a few years. Some stayed longer. And we kind of hit the ground running, and within a few years we had a couple of hundred people, and it was all very exciting, and people think this is, news and all this jazz. But when we used to think about where do we go from here, I remember thinking and sharing with the leaders at the time, I think I'm more comfortable with the idea of maybe 4 or 5 churches that maybe have 100 or 200 people that have a healthy connection rather than just having one big mega centre, And I think everybody's got to work that out.
Yeah. Because works for them. My dream for Faith Church is that we will be, I don't like the word network, like a collection.
A collective.
a rabble, hopefully, of communities that, I don't know, once or twice a year we can get together and there'd be like 1,000 people or whatever.
Yeah.
But we go back and we express our faith in community.
Sure.
Because, I look at, the geography of Wales, like lots of small towns, there's not many big places, and I just think that there just needs to be a stronger expression of the Father heart of God. And I think for us in Wales and for our setting, we can do that for a smaller community. And like for me, I've been pastoring 13 years. You can spend your whole life like chasing the goal of bigger numbers and this and that, but coming at peace about what is the essence of what we're called to be.
Yeah, totally.
And the essence of what Faith Church is called to be is to be a great family.
Yep.
so that will naturally put limitations on how big we are.
Yeah.
But that's the grace on us. And,
Exactly.
and like you say, the other people's graces are to have churches of over 1,000. You know.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
the challenge for a lot of those bigger churches, I've been to, lots of these conferences,
Yeah.
and in those early years we had all the, big names. Lester Summerall came over, Joyce Meyer, Kenneth Copeland. They were
Yeah.
all there. We were having conferences back in the green room, and
Yeah.
you've got the people that are in and the people that are out and all that kind of carry on. But one of the things that has hit me over the years, and I've spoken to other leaders about that, is that we have to ask ourselves if the majority of churches are somewhere between 50 and 100 people, if that's what most people are, which means that most of the leaders of those churches are either living fairly tight financially or doing other things. How helpful is it if you go to a conference put on by somebody with a church of 20,000 in terms of helping these guys? It's a very exciting event, but I think what I'm kind of dreaming and what I hear in your heart is that we have to reach people, but you can't, if you haven't got the experience of going through that stuff and being there, then how helpful are we really?
Yeah.
So there's some rethinking going on.
I remember being on a call in the middle of COVID with a great evangelist, but his church is thousands, and he telling us how they're getting through COVID as a church of a couple of thousand, and I'm like, it's just little old me. COVID's hit. I've got to learn how to do online church.
Yep.
It's coming out of my living room.
Yep.
My kids are the sound engineers, and the dog's running through the middle of it all, and and I'm like, this has no point of reference for me. And I've been to some great conferences and heard some great speakers, but it's the point of reference is so far away from where I'm at. It'd be great. I would love the day when I go to a conference and the guy that stands up has only got 20 people. Do you know what I mean? That would be great. But also we do need to be challenged to move forward. And I've one of the challenges that I have is you go to a conference or whatever and it's slick and it's well produced and there's a high level of excellence.
Yeah.
And then you come back to our churches with a minute budget, trying to do excellence. So how do you think that kind of excellence thing is for me and you, in our context?
Well, I think excellence is really important.
Yeah.
And when I was first saved, so I became a Christian in the kind of late 70s, and then in the early 80s, and we were involved in our church there made what was the kind of first Christian released CD, worship CD thing that was in Australia, and then others did that as well. And I remember like the byword for anything church was, second rate.
Yeah.
Everything was cheap and nasty. In fact, there was even with missionaries, I remember one mate of mine over there, and they're sending support to missionaries, and one lady brought in used tea bags. True story. So she'd use them once. And then send them over. And so that whole idea of cheap, second rate, that was such a problem.
Yeah.
And God really did something phenomenal in regard to that. And so the excellence, and it is important, but you can't do what you can't do.
Yeah.
So, sometimes I wonder whether some of these larger churches, if they can learn to work with or embrace and champion smaller situations and lend what they have, as it were. That's one option, and then relationships, in that context becomes important. But the other thing is that people love authenticity. And they need community and they need love. If I had one thing maybe above everything else in my heart is that we've got to learn, Christians have to learn to walk really in love, in agape love.
And genuine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's got to be real.
Yeah. So I was with a guy the other day who's lost two close relatives in a short, and you want to go in and say, "Oh, I understand." I haven't got no idea. Do you know what I mean? Like, but what I do have is I have a faith. And I don't really know how this whole thing works, but I'm going to pray and I'm going to believe that you can have peace. And I think for so long, Christians and the church has tried to say it's got the answer. Like as in the practical answer, but sometimes we don't. All we have is a faith. All we have is we believe in a Jesus that can make the emotions and the environment of that situation change. You know what I mean? That makes sense.
Totally.
Like I don't know what it's like to go through some of these things that the people are in my world. But what I do know is that I've been under huge amounts of stress or huge amounts of pressure or grief or whatever, and I pray to God and it changes it. You know?
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's what Wales needs. That's what this nation needs. It needs a group of Christians that say we don't understand, but what we do have is something that can change your emotions, your environment. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
You know.
And you've got to see when you're interfacing with the community, that's that big passion of yours.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're coaching rugby or whether you're down at the, what's that place called?
Tiny
next
Rebel.
Door? Yeah, Tiny Rebel next door down the road.
We get free beers if we promote them.
Or all that kind of stuff that you guys do. It's like the whole generation, because one of the things we've got to think about too is youth, younger people. And, you know, their excellence is like, because they grew up with that, it can look inauthentic. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of excellence, but if people feel genuine love and the power of God in a place and a sense of community, they'll come, you know, whether it's excellent or not, in that sense.
I think of my son, like he's 16 and a half. I think of the world that he's growing up in, where so many things are so fluid.
Yeah.
You know, to talk to him about become a Christian and you get to spend eternity with God, he's the Red Bull generation. You know, I can jump out of planes and I survive anyway. But you know, like that message that we share, like there was a very good post-war message. You know, a lot of people came back from the war. Lots of people died. They needed a gospel message that was, you know, believe in God and you can have eternal life. Yeah. This younger generation coming through doesn't mean an awful lot to them. We need to say Christianity is about living with a greater sense of community, a greater sense of belonging, and a crazy life. You know, me and my family have travelled around the world because of our faith. You know?
Have.
I mean, you know, we've been through some crazy stuff because of our faith. Because you know, we want to be different. We want to live on the edge. And I think that's the gospel message that needs to be coming through to a younger generation.
That's a really good point.
Because their world is so fluid, you know.
And I think, and in the midst of that too, you've got just this need of love, you know. And I push that a lot, but it's so important. Like agape love, what Jesus demonstrated and talked about, is not what we normally think love is. Like I love you or I love pizza. It's a different deal. It's a selfless thing that works by the power of God, not by just trying to be a good Christian. And that generation, you're right, it's like all about action, it's all about all the solid things that many of the older generation grew up with, like mum and dad and the kids. That's just gone.
It's gone,
So but people need love and they need community, you're right. And so finding ways to reach them. I mean, you're doing a great job with that.
The beginning of this year, it wasn't a thought statement, you know. I didn't think, let's write a statement for the year. It just came out as preaching beginning of the year, and it's like, could we make the doors of the church so wide that anybody could walk in? And do you know what I mean? Like, that's going to mean I'm going to sit down next to someone and I'm not going to be too sure what their gender is. You know, I'm going to sit down with someone and, you know, forget worrying about whether they're going to nick my wife's handbag. You know, it's going to be more messed up than that. And I think if Jesus was here now and we looked at the people that were with him, probably even I would be offended by who was hanging out with him. You know, and
it's a good thought, man.
I just think, like, the church, we just need to claim that space back. You know, like we've tried to be the moral police for society and we failed at that one quite dramatically.
I know.
Do you know what I mean? That hasn't worked.
And it's not even like the New Testament. You know, this idea of Christianizing. You know, return England. I'm not having a go at England. I love it here. I came here by choice, but it's England. It's also in other nations where this idea that we get back to the Christian ethics that we had decades ago. It's a really valuable way to live, but it isn't the Bible. The deal is, you know, like you said, like with Jesus, the guys that hung around him, it's like, you know, Mary comes up, there's a late sleeping with caught in the act of adultery. All the religious guys are ready to stone her. That's the normal church, you know. And if we don't stone, we just kind of look down our nose a little. You know, like, well, this, you know, you do realise your behaviour really wasn't. And that's just not in Jesus' heart for people. We've got. If we try and get people to live by Christian standards,
Yeah.
when they haven't encountered him and been born again, we're missing the whole point.
Yeah.
So I love it. Wide, the church door's so wide open.
And I don't have to change. So I don't unite with you around my theology. Mm-hmm. I unite with you about around my love for Christ.
Yep. Oh, that's a big one.
We wrestle our theology.
Yeah.
And I don't have to change my theology, and you don't have to change yours, as long as we've got a love for Christ.
Yep.
You know, and I lead my church with the security of I know what I believe. You know, my some of my stances on different things are changing as I grow and I mature. Sure. But those aren't threatened when people come to the church that don't believe in those things. You know what I mean? Like how they see the woman. But we unite around our love for Jesus.
Yeah.
And
well, that touches on unity, doesn't it?
Yes.
Which is huge. I did I'm part of the Churches Together group where we are over there in Staines, and they do a annual kind of a walk of witness.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
funny thing, you know, but it's good. You
Yeah.
know, so all the Christians are out, and I got to speak this year. So I had 7 minutes or something, and there's a few hundred people there in the middle of Staines. Ali G didn't show, but you know, I was hoping. I was ready.
Yeah.
I had the sunglasses.
Oh, right.
The whole deal, yeah. But and it was, you know, well received. All went well. And then one of the ministers, so the people are happy enough, but one of the ministers pulled me aside laterward, and because I made reference to healing, and Jesus, and that didn't fit in with his theology.
Yeah.
So he wants to have a sit down and a chat, which is fine. I don't mind having a talk about that. But I agree with you. If we allow our particular differences, to part us, then you end up with not just with small churches, but with no sense of connection.
Yeah.
And we need one another, man.
Yes.
So I appreciate that. That's
And we're all balls of string.
Yeah.
And not every knot gets untied before we get to heaven. You know?
God, that's deep.
It is, isn't it? but
Let me think through what you're saying there. We're all balls of string. I've not often thought of myself as a ball of string, but I'm working on it now.
But we're working out our humanity.
Absolutely.
We're working out our faith within inside of a broken world.
And we change too, don't we?
Yes.
Like you said, we think differently now about some things.
Yes.
And I think, not that we've mentioned this, but that I reckon it's very important to see, and it's going to be important in this move of God, where there's been a lot of focus on young people, and that's important. But there is something about being seasoned and proven over a period of time. You just, you know, if you're a mechanic on a car and you've done it for 30 years, you just know some things.
Yeah.
I had a friend who was a really good mechanic in Australia, and we bought this VW Golf. This is a long time ago in Australia, so 80s maybe, and just had it done, and then something sounded wrong, and so we took it. We got him in the driveway. And put it in reverse and tried to back. We went about 3 meters. He hears this sound. He said, "Oh, I know what that is. Brake pads are in backwards."
All right.
Yeah, and they were.
Yeah.
Because that's what he does all the time.
Yeah.
And I think if we're not careful, we can disregard
wisdom.
The people that are kind of the over 50s. I remember that guy Bob Jones. You might remember. He's this prophetic voice, gone home to be with heaven now. Quite an unusual guy in America, but I remember him having a strong prophetic word about God using the over 50s. And I think that's going to be important. We just have to stay relevant.
Yeah,
you know?
yes.
I don't know if you're over 50. I'm just about there now.
No, 3 years to go. 3 years to go. Yeah.
But, you know, that's that working together of generations.
Yeah.
And that older, more mature, more seasoned guys that should know things about God and his ways better. Not being overbearing, championing younger people, but then younger people being able to say, I can learn some stuff here instead of having to, you know, think I know it all when I'm 25. You know, so.
Well, it's been great to talk.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we should do this again.
Absolutely.
And,
love it in the shed.
Yeah, love it in the shed. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
We should do a bobbing on our surfboards. I should get you on a board soon.
Yes. Well, I grew up in Australia, but I've not really ever been a surfer. He's the surfer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. Thanks for spending time in the shed and
absolutely
just
my
unpacking
pleasure.
Things. You know,
really appreciate it.
You know, if we've spoken about anything, you know, here in the last 25 minutes that's challenged you or you want to know more, you can comment in the bottom of the YouTube channel or get my details because, you know, we wrestle with all of this stuff. We unpack it through conversation and, you know, I'm more than happy and I know you would be, Paul, more than happy to unpack this, but I'm excited. Yeah. You know, I'm excited for what, I'm excited for the season we've been through, and I'm excited to see what God wants to do
So true.
In our churches and in our nations.
Absolutely.
And I like, it's cliche. Every pastor says, "Oh, we're going to have the next greatest move of God."
Yeah.
But I think we're due one. So
Yeah.
I think it's been too long. And I'm not frustrated, but I think there's something coming. I think this is our moment. I think there's a reshifting of what church looks like. I think some of us that have been in the backwaters for the last season are suddenly going to see God's influence and blessing coming in through our churches. So thanks for taking the time to watch. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Look
Thank you.
forward to catching you with again soon on Shed TV.
This is my shed, it lives by a hedge in my tiny little yard.